So Carol, you were a teacher, and you were teaching before Common Core came in, and then you got to watch what happened when it came in.
Right.
First of all, tell me some of the changes that you noticed. Oh, and what grade were you teaching?
Well, I taught second grade when it first came in, and I transferred to another school and taught kindergarten for
Okay.
2 years, or well, 2.5 years. I'm sorry, a year and a half.
Okay.
But I noticed it when we started getting, it didn't have a name at that time,
Yeah.
but the Pearson reading, began that, and it changed the whole way that we were teaching, because that is when they had reading coaches come in when we got that curriculum, and the reading coaches would come around with a clipboard and check off if we were doing this or if we weren't doing that, and then it went from the reading coach to groups of people that were coming in, just like several people at one time, maybe up to 6 to 8,
Wow.
would come in and visit and check on us, or just be, they were saying they were just observing the kids. But, as a teacher, I felt like, I was getting
Yeah.
the observation. But that's when before the name, then we had the dibbles, and then we had, just a little more testing here and there on computer, and it just grew. But when it got a name, I was watching, I was at the school where I taught kindergarten, and we were called into the library, and they asked us to watch a film, and it was about Bill Gates with this new idea, and how he came up with it, and how it was going to change for the good, our education system, or the curriculum, and at that point, I guess we were excited, because we didn't really understand what it was. But as time went on, and we saw kindergartners having to take more tests and we were
Pencil paper tests?
and required to sit in their desk instead of having time for play, or in our system we would let them have a nap.
Yeah.
But there just wasn't time, and it got harder to teach, because of course, teachers always complain about paperwork, but it was just getting impossible.
So there was more paperwork too.
Oh yeah, and kids expected to take tests, on computer, or spend a good time on the computer, because
Even in kindergarten and first grade.
yes, and
Did you
It
see
just-
this making a positive difference? Were your kids doing better than they were 5 years ago when you were teaching in that grade level?
no, I don't think so. I think I just think they felt the pressure. Now I can't say that they didn't they loved to spend that one-on-one time, with me, or any teacher, but I think they also felt the pressure that I felt, because they were expected to meet these standards, and it became a different world. It just did. I didn't have the freedom to teach. I wasn't trusted to teach, it didn't seem like. And
Did you feel comfortable to speak out how you were feeling about this?
Yes, I did for a while. And
What did you speak out then? Did you go to the administrators or your principal and tell them how you felt?
I did but I guess before it had a name.
Yeah, okay.
We a lot of us voiced our opinion. We didn't like people coming in and checking on us.
Right.
We felt like we were then, not trusted
Yeah.
to do our job, I guess is what I'm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we didn't like. It was like one day you had the freedom to teach, and then when they brought this in to Pearson, it was, you're going to do it this way, you're going to be on this page, and it's going to be done.
And everybody had to be on the same page on the same day
Well, we tried
within
to do that, yeah.
And
I
how
tried.
is that possible?
It's
with
not possible.
how many kids? Probably 20 or so kids in your
18
classroom.
to 20 usually I had. And,
But they wanted them all to be learning the same thing at the same time.
well, we'd have leveled readers, and
Okay.
they'd be in different reading groups at that age. They're high, medium, and low, and then you were to spend, most of your time with the low readers, and the high readers were, really supposed to do work
Self-learning.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we could ask them to help the lower readers, or the group with the lower readers, and have them to help each other, or
So
help the little ones.
you started going on Facebook, right, and voicing your concerns about this.
Mm-hmm.
And how'd that go?
Not so well. I was called into the office. There was I noticed, I was brave to do it because there was 6 or 7 of us from just my school that I saw posting. So I
Joined in.
I joined in and probably posted more than, to be honest, than most. But and I don't remember after posting those posts, it seemed like I took a breather. I didn't post for a while. And so 3 of us were chosen to be called on the carpet. And
Out of all these people that were on Facebook, 7 or 8 or whatever.
right.
Okay.
So it was about a month, maybe a month and a half that us 3 were called in. And
To the principal's office. Okay.
yes, and the assistant principal was making notes, and then the principal was reading from a book when I walked in, and she read to me about how it was her, her job was very hard, and even to the point of firing, and when she took that job, that she took on all these responsibilities, and that I was not to post. I mean, what happened was that I was not to post because it was undermining her. And because of the Student Act of 2011, we were not allowed, we were considered insubordinate if we did not do what our superiors told us to do. So that changed things because, we could be vocal. We had AA, or I belonged to the Christian Education Association. When I called AA to question them about it, that's when I found out that I had no right to post anything.
Because you were working for.
The state.
Okay.
As a teacher, yeah. So after prayer and after a lot of thought, and Brian and I talked a whole lot about what to do, I decided to leave my job that I loved. And I wasn't ready to retire because I still had years to go. I had 19 years when I left. And anyway, I decided to go home and work on getting rid of Common Core.
Wow. Did you leave mid-year, or did you finish out that
It was
year?
March. It'll be a year this March.
So you gave it up. You gave up your retirement and everything.
Well, I'll get retirement, but it comes later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not what, the retirement that I was working towards is
How did you make that decision? What drove you to say, okay, it's not worth it. I'm going to quit.
it's giving kids tests that were about this thick, math test in kindergarten. It's all these computer tests. It's rigor is the word that was used at my school. It was the pressure. It was pressure on myself. I was unhappy, very unhappy. Not with the kids, but I love the kids.
Yeah.
But it was just pressure in the school. Some schools have like a political system, and if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and we had that there, and it was hard to work with some colleagues, you know, and then, not all. I mean, the majority were very good teachers and very good friends.
Right.
It just got hard. It just really got hard. And
Going back to thinking about those precious little kids having to do those tests, were you seeing a lot of behavior problems, or were they crying, and was it different than in past years?
well, of course, second grade, I had is where most of my experience
Okay.
is, and then I went to kindergarten.
Okay.
But yes, there was a big difference. In
So did you feel that the material was developmentally appropriate?
For, of course, some of them would catch on, but a lot of them did not.
Mm-hmm.
And we would spend a lot of time on why 1 is 1, why
Mm-hmm.
2 is 2. You would take 1 week for one number. I have a granddaughter that's in 3rd grade. It seems like she is being pushed to learn things early, but kindergarten, it's it seems like we, in some ways, were slowed down. While they were sitting in their seat, let's draw. Let's draw 1, let's write 1, let's discuss why 1 is 1. It was just a full page of that, and the other things seemed hard. It just depended on what what it was.
Right.
So,
I had a really good question and I just forgot what it was. You said that you decided to leave teaching so that you could fight against Common Core. And what does that entail? What have you done and what are you trying to do to make that happen?
it's to get together with people like Lisa Harris. At one time, other people that maybe are not in it, that are in it, that aren't in it any longer, that were in it. It was to Susan Stevens is a lady in Jasper, and I connected with her and just started working with her, like going to meetings or more Facebook, learning myself more about it, and so that's what I've done for this past year.
Have you had any teachers come to you since you've left, or maybe friends, or maybe they weren't your closest friends at school, but how'd they feel about you leaving? Did they think you were just a kook, or?
Well, I think there was. My daughter is a teacher, and so she was going through this with me.
But was she at the same school as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was teaching first, and I have a son-in-law that's a principal at the same school, but at the high school. But she goes through the same things now. That they're pressured and in first grade, so I talk a lot with her.
Yeah.
And
when you are doing your research and connecting with these other people, do you have favorite resources that you like to use, or where do you go? Is Facebook? I know because there's Stop Common Core in just about every state Facebook pages, and it's great information sharing, but are there other places that you like to go to get information?
Well, the Eagle Forum is one I'm just now beginning to, I hopefully work with,
Yes.
and I just the newspaper or whatever. I see national news now. Fox
Yes.
News has a lot of people they interview about Common Core. It's just such a burden when you think when those two words come up. It's just a heaviness, and I try to find what I can, as much as I can.
You were recently talking to a legislator,
Mm-hmm.
and how did that go? How was he receptive? This is a state legislator I'm talking about, but what were some of the concerns that you brought up to him?
Well, I just told my story to him and told him about the Student First Act. I wish that they would lift that because I think teachers are gagged.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more what that is? In 2011, that was passed?
Well, we had, an AEA represented the teachers, and we had a lot of rights that were just taken away, and the Student First Act.
Do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If that came about in 2011, Alabama adopted Common Core in 2010, at the very end of 2010. It's interesting the timing of this new act that came out to gag teachers, basically. Do you think that's why the timing of that?
It sure is a coincidence, and I've thought about that a lot. Yeah.
So this act basically said what?
It says you're insubordinate if you I mean, if you were insubordinate. So that covered all kinds of things, and they got me on that.
Which is grounds for firing
Right.
if you speak out. So you pretty much now waive your constitutional rights as a teacher
Right.
and can't speak your mind.
Right. And I think that if that was lifted, we'd hear a lot more from teachers. I really do. Teachers are an unhappy bunch.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I think that Common Core is mainly why.
What are some other things that, you know, if you had just a soundbite, what of your story do you want to tell? What more do you want to be able to say to convince people that Common Core is not the way we want to go?
I would say it's just developmentally inappropriate. Again, I've got a granddaughter that's learning how to tell time on a timeline and elapse time. And my daughter spent 2 to 3 hours the other night, and they were both upset, you know. And she's a very smart little girl, and I just think that's the biggest thing, other than the moral aspects of Common Core that are coming soon. And
Do you want to address any of those? What you see coming?
Well, I see also as a coincidence the gay right thing. There are books that gently, I guess is the word, promote that lifestyle. There are worksheets that I've seen that promote, a picture that promoted that lifestyle. Also, the history, I feel like our history's being almost rewritten. And if I were a teacher, a history teacher, I would have to just pull other resources and not go by that when I think it has already hit, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do that. Also, from what I understand, the counselor is going to have a lot to deal with, and
Beginning to look at attitudes and
that
not just academics.
Yeah, that and tracking the students and having to be responsible for their whole life. They're going to track them their whole life and introduce things that little kids should never be introduced to. It just breaks my heart to think of what it's going to be if it's not stopped.
And what are some ways? I mean, this is a big train to stop. I don't know how we're going to stop it. I'm open to ideas and doing what I can do too. But do you think we're going to stop this train, or what do you think it'll take to stop the train?
I think it will take teachers being able to speak out, and parents. The parents are in the same boat. Yeah, really, they're in that political arena where they're also afraid. They're afraid that their child will suffer repercussions.
Do you think that some parents don't even know, like especially young parents who this is the first time that their first child's going through first grade? They've never done that before, so they don't know what's appropriate behavior. The kid's coming home crying. Is that normal? Is that not normal? And I think a lot of parents, they don't know if things are right or wrong. They don't understand what's going on either. It's important to educate them.
Right.
And I'm sure 10 years ago, your little guys in second grade were probably pretty enthusiastic about school.
Yeah, I mean, we just did so much more hands-on things, I think. We just did so much more. And
relating to them.
Yeah, with what I knew they would. I knew my students, and I knew what they would enjoy and what they wouldn't. But this
took away that freedom.
So monitored, just so monitored now and told what to teach from an instructional coach now instead of a reading coach, which has no more education than I did, maybe less, and they come from another grade or another, like a junior high comes to a kindergarten teacher, comes to a kindergarten and tells you how to teach. And it gives them, what I've seen, a feeling as they are over you, you know, when they're really your peer, you know, on the same level, that they have no more education, but they are allowed to be an administrator almost.
Right. Would feel a little demeaning, I think, when they're coming.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, oh, she's not in here. Oh, yeah, you are. You are back there. What are anything else you can think of that is in her story that we should pull out? And this was just, you've only been out a year.
Mm-hmm.
From the time when you left, it's been a year, and your daughter is still teaching. Is she seeing things get better or get worse?
Worse. And I think, I'm going to say this, I think too, some of it, a lot of it, is administrator. So it depends on if they're accepting Common Core, or, you know, because
the more they accept it, the more they're going to push it and not
you're right.
take your advice or your comments or anything.
Mm-hmm. And when I left, this person said, but, you know, the scores, I don't want anything to take away from my scores, you know, and the word rigorous was mentioned.
So it wasn't about the students, it was just about the scores, how it looked on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Because then that's, if that looked good, then his job would be secure.
Mm-hmm. Or hers.
Or hers,
Yeah.
right. Okay. What else, Lisa?
The other teachers who were posting about Common Core, the ones that were recommended and the ones that weren't.
Yeah, let me
What
ask about that.
happened to them?
Okay.
And
Because we can cut this, you know,
what kind of
so let me
support?
restate that question.
Okay.
You said that there were 3 of you that were pulled aside and sent to the principal's office for your Facebook posting. What happened to the other 2? And then what happened to those that weren't called in? That were still, maybe they stopped posting, but what happened? We know what happened to you.
Yeah. Well, the other one's my daughter. Oh, I mean, one's my daughter. One's another one that I had taught with at the previous school. Who was at this school. Became very quiet, and she is now a 6th grade teacher at the same school, and she
doesn't say anything? Yeah, she's afraid. Okay.
The other 2 that I know of,
That did not get called into the office, right?
one is her dad had some political attachments.
Okay.
And
Which is maybe why she didn't get called in?
yes, and I would think, or maybe warned, you know, you. And what I think is she's, you know, said don't do it because I'm gonna call some teachers in.
Okay.
There was also, like in our system, there was teachers that were posting. You know, I saw that. It wasn't just at our school. There was teachers posting also, friends of mine. And slowly but surely they stopped posting. And
So they've been threatened probably
I
somehow.
wonder, you know, if they've been warned not to do it. I just feel like I was targeted, you know, and when the other 2 were.
what about, did you get any support from your colleagues?
Yeah. Did you get any support from your colleagues?
Yes, I mean, they didn't want me to leave, you know, and they were very nice, but, you know, they didn't want to be in the same boat I was in. And, you know, I was fortunate to have a husband, children grown, and, well, we have one still in college who wants to be a teacher. But it was just at a time in my life that I felt like God was just leading me away from school at that point. I did.
If
work
Common
on-
Core was gone, would you go back to teaching?
Yes. I would in a heartbeat.
Well, I want to thank you so much for what a choice you had to make. And especially 19 years, you definitely loved those kids. And I think your stand to walk away is actually a stand for the kids. Because when you stay in that environment, you're just propagating what they're doing to these kids. And even though it was very hard, it was a blessing for those kids. You're standing up for the kids. And I don't know any better teacher than that.
I appreciate
So,
it.
thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I needed this.
And that doesn't, I mean, we may have another thing to say. We'll cut this so that that's at the end. But I think, I mean, really, that is huge what you did. Think of all those hundreds of teachers that won't do that. They want to do it, but wow. You really stood up for the kids.
Well, they're stuck. I mean, they've
Yeah.
got children, they've got
Right,
house payments.
right.
They've
You
got,
had a great supportive husband
Yes.
too. That was, some husbands may not said, "Hey, honey, just shut up and do your job." But
Well, he knew I was miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew every day I'd come in and tell him
Yeah.
that it was not like it used to be. you know.
Right.
And,
were you in the same school the whole time?
No, I taught at it's a school called Curry Elementary, and it's close to Smith Lake. And
Okay.
then we transferred. My daughter and I.
Uh-huh.
We were teaching both at Curry, and then we transferred to Oakman.
That's nice. You got to be
And
together.
then her husband was there, you know,
Okay.
at the high school, and she wanted her daughter to go through Oakman,
Mhm.
and cause her husband is at the high
Mhm.
school, and so we decided to leave for
Mhm.
for that and a few other reasons, but we left there, and I love Curry. I miss
Mhm.
it.
Do you think your daughter's going to be at the position where she's going to say walk away?
Unless you can find something, work that pays.
Yeah. Okay.
As much as she makes right now,
Mhm.
but she would love to.
Mhm.
We've talked about, together opening
Mhm.
a school, but I ran into some hard,
Yeah.
hard things
Yeah.
or impossible things. And to start a school on our own, we need to be affiliated with a church. I think.
Right. Like a homeschool cover school kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Can you think of anything else? I hear footsteps, so I don't know if Bonnie's
No,
here yet.
Bonnie
But
sent me a message. They're tied up with runoffs, and she's
oh,
not
okay.
gonna make it.
Okay.
Do
What?
you-
Oh.
I was just gonna say, do you feel like,
And I'll rephrase it so that it's on
do you
camera.
feel like other teachers were supportive of you, but were not vocal because they were afraid?
Oh yes, they're very afraid. I mean, teachers we've always complained. You always just talk to each other, but this is just a whole different monster.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just there's no freedom to teach. There's
Uh-huh.
and teaching has just changed because of Common Core. Just not overnight, but over
Yeah.
a few years.
Right.
And,
Big time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in just a few short years, it has really changed,
Mm-hmm.
and not for the good.
No. I just hope, that somehow that our legislatures get
Yeah.
woken up.
Well, I think you made a good point too about that the Students First Act or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that's something we should really look into, trying to get that lifted.
Uni was looking at that.
We were looking at the Governance Act. I was
Yeah,
not familiar with the student-
and that's how we know it as.
Well,
Maybe
there's
that's the
actually-
same thing,
That's
but
true. It sounds like
the
It's-
Governance
it's
Act
just-
is school
it's-
boards are not allowed to disagree with what the superintendent says. So you're like, well, why do you
Oh,
have a school
those
board?
are actually-
Yeah, you can get censored,
Those are actually
whatever.
two separate acts.
Yeah,
The
I,
Governance Act is about school boards. The Students First Act was a revamping of tenure policies, and it actually cut down there were things in it that I've read that are good, where it cut down a whole lot of red tape in getting rid of really bad teachers, but it also contains all of these hidden things in it that really are not to the benefit of teachers
Right.
or parents,
Mm-hmm.
because they're political. They're politically motivated.
Well, and it's really sad when your group that's representing you says, okay, you're not
And-
following the rules, but, I mean,
When I called the representative, ours, we didn't have one at that time in Walker County. I called the one, and she was from Hoover, I believe she said, and she said, well, I love Common Core. So, I mean, she has a right to her
Uh-huh.
opinion, but I thought that's not that's not good for her to maybe not get.
give her opinion right
Yes,
there. Mhm.
Was that AEA or the Christian?
AA.
Okay.
I have her name somewhere, but I don't have it with me.
Okay. Well, thank you for lots of good stuff. And your story's very compelling.
Well, thank you.
And I love to see, not that I love to see tears, but I really know it's heartfelt, and